Problem number 4, let's solve the first one here, which is determine the cosine of 2 theta. So what I know is I have the sine of theta. So I'll write that up here. It's not going to write well up in the corner. Let's write it over in this corner. So our sine of theta is 3/5. So if I'm going to try to do the cosine of 2 theta, and I know the sine of theta, I'll try to pick one of these formulas that only has sine in it. So with cosine, I get a couple options. So I've got these three guys to pick from. The only one with just sine in it is this guy down here. So let's use that. So I've got 1 minus 2 times the sine of theta squared, which is 1 minus 2. Now the sine of theta is 3/5. I need to square that guy. So this is 1 minus 2 times 9 over 25, which is 1 minus 18 over 25, which is 25 over 25 minus 18 over 25. And that's going to be equal to 7 over 25. Let's go ahead and see if that answer makes sense. So we'll go ahead and grab our calculator. So the question is, what's the actual angle we're looking at? Well, if the sine is 3/5, let's go to degrees, just so it makes more sense. And so then the arcsine of 3/5 should give me the angle value, and it will. Now, also notice that theta is between 0 and pi over 2, so this is going to work because the values that I'm going to get out, I'm in that range. So it says that I'm looking at an angle that's about 37 degrees. So if I take the cosine of 2 times that angle, I'm going to get 0.279 or 0.28. If I take 7 and divide it by 25, I'm getting a value of 0.25. So these are off just a little bit, but it's not too bad. And the reason that they're off a little bit is probably due to rounding error. So let's go ahead and just check that. So here's how I'll do that. I do the arcsine of 3/5. I'll multiply that angle by 2, and I'll take the cosine of that answer, and I got 0.28. If I take 7 divided by 25, I also get 0.28. So that's exactly right. Now let's erase that, and let's go ahead and try. Okay, so we're going to work on the sine here. So I want to know, what is the sine of theta over 2? So I'm going to use this over here, which is the half angle. Now this is a different form than what I gave you on the sheet, but it's just the terms are rearranged. So this over here, okay, I'm going to write it over here. So it says sine squared theta is equal to 1/2 times 1 minus the cosine of 2 theta. Now, if I just let this theta be theta over 2, because there's nothing wrong with that, I mean, it's just an angle. So if I let it be half, then this guy becomes theta over 2. Okay, so let's delete this. And this guy becomes, so that's 2 times theta over 2. And 2 times theta over 2, guys, is just theta. Okay. So if I rearrange terms just a little bit more, I have the sine of theta over 2 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 1 minus the cosine of theta divided by 2. And that's the formula that you're used to seeing. So this over here is the same thing. Now, I just wrote the plus or minus over 2 here instead of writing the more complicated expression, because we have to pick whether to use the plus or the minus. Well, if the original angles is between 0 and 90 degrees, then half the angle is certainly between 0 and 90 degrees. So we are going to use the plus because sine is positive in quadrant 1. The only thing I need to know is cosine of theta. Well, I don't know that. I know sine of theta. So let me draw out a little picture here. So theta is in the first quadrant. Here it is. Its sine, the sine of theta is the opposite, which is 3, and the hypotenuse, which is 5. So that means the adjacent side has to be a length 4, and it's positive because I'm headed in the positive x direction. So this is going to be the square root. I could put a little plus sign out there, but I don't need it. 1 minus 4 over 5, because that's the cosine value, divided by 2. So this is 5 over 5 minus 4 over 5 over 2. I'm going to erase this for some more room. So this is going to be the square root of 1 over 5 divided by 2, which is the square root of 1 over 10, which is 1 over the square root of 10, or 10, square root of 10 over 10. So let's check that answer out. So we already know that the angle we're looking at is equal to this. So if I divide that guy by 2, I get this. So that is theta divided by 2. And the sine at theta divided by 2 is 0.316. If I take the square root of 10 and divide it by 10, I get the same value. So now I know that square root of 10 over 10 is the exact value of the sine of theta over 2.